going on? Welcome to the Endgame recap, where we just, talk about game news and what's going on in the gaming industry. It is for 2025. I almost said 2023, just like I almost wrote 2023 before catching myself when I was creating the file for this podcast. I guess, since the pandemic, things just feel a little... Is that age, maybe? Is it pandemic? Can I point to the pandemic instead of, aging? I already feel really old every time I not go to the gym. I feel young when I go to the gym and lift and I get into the groove. I feel old from the gym the next day. I've gone to the gym almost every day and worked 110% every day in 2025. And every morning, I feel the years and the effort more and more. It's so hard 2 days after a leg day to get out and do things. Once I do, it's fine. My schedule is usually a leg day, a chest and back day, and then another leg day. And I do biceps and triceps and shoulders, and then I may on Saturday and Sunday hit back and shoulders, or not back and shoulders, arms and shoulders again, and I usually do. But those 2 days after, I think, the second leg day, so it would be, whatever it may be, that is the hardest morning in the world. It's difficult. Anyway, you don't care about this, do you? You care about the delicate nuances displayed in my critical, necessary, absolutely vital gaming industry commentary, right? And the news. Well, we can get into that. I just kind of, had to ramble a little bit. I had to do that. You know what it is? Who cares, Kyle? Who cares about you? Sometimes, in order to get the train, the train is on the tracks, but it's a little off. And if it moves, things are going to be fine, but if it moves very quickly, it's going to fall off. So sometimes you got to, get a little groove on and get into it. Get that choo-choo train moving of the podcast at a good pace. Okay, anyway, let's just get right into it. So, I have it in my notes here. One thing I wanted to talk about is just how much fun it is to be in the gaming industry or to be a fan of it. And you have decades of great stuff to go into. Oh, you want a great nostalgic Metroidvania? Go play Castlevania Symphony of the Night. You want to go and revisit the N64 era first-person shooters? Go boot up Perfect Dark and have a fun time with some friends and do split screen. You can even do split screen campaign in that one. I played a game called Steel Hunters with my brother this week. It's a new mech game from the wargaming people, and it's kind of like it's an extraction shooter, but it's like a third-person action game reskinned to have mechs almost. There's some customization aspects. There's a huge progression to it, but it was fun. It was fun jumping into that for 2 hours. I'm editing a little recap video on it, and speaking of which, I've been doing a lot more of those lately. I got a few in the editing bay, and I play a lot of games. So I figured, let's justify playing more games and doing this while I'm unemployed by creating content around it. See? You got to figure out a way to justify the things you do. Your hobbies, right? So that's what we're doing. So look for more of those. That is at Real Good there on all channels. And hey, if you work in PR or the video game industry in some way and you want, some content made for your game, talk to me. I'll do it for free. I'll do it for free right now and then, market it to my very, very small reach. Think of all the value that you're getting out of that. Anyway, let's go into the news. So the biggest thing that everyone's talking about this week is the Switch 2 was announced. Yay, fanfare. Everybody's wondering that's going to happen. So it's $450. It's $500 if you buy it with Mario Kart. So does that mean that Mario Kart is going to be $50 in stores? No, it does not. Mario Kart alone is going to be $80. So if you get it with the bundle, that's $30 off. A lot of people are talking about that, the price of Mario Kart being $80. Some people attribute it to tariffs. Who knows? One thing people have said is that it's hard to raise the price of something once it's already released, but it's easier to add sales and stuff. So maybe that's their thinking. There's a lot of talk in the gaming industry right now about how much games should cost. And there's lots of people bringing up the 90s when cartridge-based games were like $80, $90. That's without adjusting for inflation. And so games are generally accepted at $60. There's been a move to $70 recently. Lots of rumors around the price of GTA about it being potentially $100. And so, $80, I don't know. Let me know what you think. I think Nintendo is free to charge that amount. And I think consumers are free to respond how they will. I like that aspect of capitalism. Unless it's a necessary thing. If you're a electricity company or an internet company, I think if the internet is necessary at this point, the necessary things for us to survive and thrive. Gouging and all that, no, not cool. Anyway, it says the general consensus on the Switch 2 is that it's bigger, it's clearer, it's faster, all that stuff you expected it to be. Games are going to be a little differently. It's backwards compatible, so games are going to play a little differently on the new one. They're going to take advantage of the new optimization. The next From Software game was announced for there, and a lot of people in the communities for From Software, they made like Dark Souls, Elden Ring, all that stuff. A lot of people are angry about that. They said, I saw some people say, why would they bring it to Switch? No one buys that console. And I had to correct someone, as I do, and say it's one of the most best-selling game consoles of all time. I think number 1 is the PS2, number 2 is the Nintendo DS, and number 3 now is the Nintendo Switch. And I think that's at 150 million units sold, if I remember correctly. So it's a big thing. It's big. Switch 2 is going to be really big. But they're doing something differently with the pre-order process. So they don't like scalpers, and they're trying to curb that as much as possible. So they're rewarding their big fans, but you have to be a fan in a certain way. So I'm going to quote what my friend Gerson Souza said on LinkedIn. Pre-orders will begin on April 8th in the UK and Europe and April 9th in the US and Canada, with the console launching on June 5th, 2025. To qualify for pre-order invitations, consumers must have had an active Nintendo Switch Online membership for at least 2 continuous years by March 31st, 2025. Additionally, invites will be prioritized for members with a minimum of 50 hours of gameplay logged as of April 2nd, 2025, and who have opted to receive promotional communications from Nintendo. These measures aim to deter scalpers and ensure availability for loyal customers. And Esquire said, if you're not afraid to break the bank, the Switch 2 is a much improved upgrade. Cool. So it sounds like if you're a big fan, this is exactly what you want. I signed up for the pre-order for the Mario Kart version. Hopefully I have a job by then so I can justify it. It's going to be harder to justify without, regular income. So fingers crossed, everybody. Fingers crossed. Root for me, please. Also in the news, listen, it's a tricky time in the world. I'm going to read this one as matter of fact, and the things that I'm reading with as little commentary as possible. Hopefully you feel me winking at you right now. You feel an unemployed man walking the line, winking at you, being as honest as he possibly can. All right, so ESA says Trump tariffs will have a detrimental impact on the video game industry. The Entertainment Software Association, speaking with GameFile, said the newly announced Trump tariffs will have a real and detrimental impact on the video game industry. ESA Senior Vice President Aubrey Quinn stated video game hardware is likely to take a hit as they are made in countries with bigger tariffs that are set to be implemented. Parts for consoles are also sourced from multiple countries. Any one product that a consumer would buy is likely to be subject to many of the tariffs announced, all compounded on top of one another, said Quinn. I think what we heard yesterday is not the end of the story, not for the United States, not for other countries. Quinn concluded, I think every company, every industry, the video game industry included, needs to think about what's best for consumers, best for business, and best for employees. Supply chains are complicated, and certainly supply chains don't change overnight. Everything that is considered or decided can't be a quick turnaround and can't be a knee-jerk reaction to any particular announcement. The ESA was founded in 1994 as the Interactive Digital Software Association was renamed in 2003. It is a trade association of the video game industry in the U.S. So I thought that was a very measured and careful take, one that is not meant to disturb any let's see, how can I say this? It's not going to stir the pot. It's not going to poke the bear of any certain powers that be that may not necessarily understand these nuances and these issues and how they apply to a wider industry. Does that make sense? Does that ring true, as it were? Am I being genuine? Am I being authentic? Okay, moving on. This one says, oh man, this is a great one. So Netflix boss came out and said that he wasn't sure if kids are dreaming of owning a PlayStation 6. He basically says when it comes to consoles, we started to look at the future where platform is agnostic. And looking at the younger generation, he asked, are 8-year-olds and 10-year-olds dreaming of owning a PlayStation 6? And he said he's not sure. He said they just want to interact with any digital screen. And he said with console, you're thinking about high definition, you're thinking about the controller. And said if we look at this older model, I think it will restrain us. And there's been a lot of really interesting knee-jerk, to quote the ESA, opinions to this specifically. You know, why does Netflix hate consoles? Of course, they have all this stuff. People need to understand that they're also on consoles too. A lot of people use their apps on consoles. My wife does all the time. I think it's a very, they're not tearing consoles down. They're just saying a reality or a potential reality that if you invest heavily in the console industry, you may be putting all your eggs in one basket. And so they're just saying we have to look at a potential future where kids may not be playing on consoles. And Microsoft, with a lot of their business decisions of late, has kind of echoed that. They've been moving away to cloud, putting their games on any platform they can, making the Xbox service available through just your TV or your streaming device. So there's lots of different takes on where this industry is going, and it's not necessarily one thing. Remember, Nintendo has carved out a very healthy market for themselves on being specifically console based. So the game industry isn't what it used to be. And don't bemoan the death of the consoles, because they're certainly still alive, but also just focus on the great products. Like I said in the beginning of this podcast, there's so much cool stuff coming out. Just focus on that, and who cares where you play it? I know it sometimes, money being money, you want to invest in one thing, a console, and you want to make sure that you get your money's worth, and a lot of good things come to that. I get that too. I really sympathize. Moving on. Here's a simple one. I thought that this was interesting, how much ink this was getting in enthusiast circles. So the new Onimusha game is coming out. It's a game series from Capcom that was like their samurai Resident Evil, zombie ninjas and zombie samurai and feudal Japan type stuff, and even involved time travel with Jean Reno. I don't know, same French actor who's in The Professional, and how he was a part of the game at one point. Very respected. A lot of people have been wondering, is it going to come back? And there's always this worry that if a game comes back, is it going to have these modern trappings that everyone kind of collectively hates? Or is it going to stick to its roots and being all this? And it sounds like they're sticking to the roots and delivering what people want. They wanted a linear experience. They wanted lots of violence. And the developers recently confirmed that. It's going to be linear, 20 hours of playtime, and enough bloodshed for an 18+ rating. Great. Fantastic. Hopefully it sells. Why don't we get the games like we used to? Because a lot of people continued to make the games that they used to. And they didn't make money. Everything has trends, comes in and out. So hopefully, with Space Marine being so successful, we can get more linear games. Games where you just play in a weekend or a week or two, and maybe you're done. And there's multiplayer aspects too. And sure, great. But, I miss that. I miss the short game. I miss the really great emotional journey of a short game in the same way that I don't miss good movies, necessarily, but I hate how a lot of culture is designed around these long-term payoffs and TV shows that go on forever that don't have a story they want to tell. The story we want to tell lasts as long as we're paid to write it. Not always the best thing. And connected universes where you have to watch 20 hours of content to enjoy a film that just came out, because as a standalone product, it doesn't work, So cool, 20-hour game. I clearly had a lot to say about Onimusha and its effects. So speaking of successful games, Monster Hunter Wilds apparently has already sold more than 10 million copies, and Capcom has been very quick to say why it has sold so well. So they've pointed to the introduction of crossplay and the day one launch across console and PC. And so everybody on every platform can all play on the same day and can play together. Who knew that would be something that would drive sales? And they also go on to say, additionally, the introduction of the new focus mode mechanic and the implementation of seamless movement between settlements and ecosystems have provided an even more immersive gaming experience, while the fusion of numerous elements with Monster Hunter's appeal has generated significant excitement, all of which led to the company first month sales record of over 10 million units sold. So they're basically saying, hey, we made a better game. And everybody can play this better game on all the platforms. And it turns out that works. Yeah. What do you think? I mean, that everything I've known about this and, watching industry trends, that seems to be it. Hey, we made a better game. You can all play it together. How cool. Well, I couldn't believe it. They liked that. Some higher up in some company saying, I don't want to tear down do that whole toxic gamer thing of who knows, game companies don't know what they're talking about. But like everything, there's a little bit of truth to that. I just don't want to go down that toxic knee-jerk thing. Today's topic is knee-jerk behaviors, brought to you by Endgame Recap. Okay, this one is a hopeful story. It says, Disney Codemasters and Jagex veterans launch indie publishing collaborative. Let me read that again. I need to get my bearings in this one. All right. Here we go. You know what it is? I'm thinking about all the games I can't wait to play after I do this. After I edit the podcast, throw it into this clip generation thing and get everything scheduled and all that. I can't wait to play a smattering of new and old titles tonight. Okay, let's get into the article. We stretched? We good? Got a break? Okay, go. Disney Codemasters and Jagex veterans launch indie publishing label The Collab. And that's a capital C and a capital L. And the article says, a cohort of industry veterans With experience at major players like Disney, Jagex, and Codemasters have launched The Collab, a new UK indie publishing label that hopes to counter to the many current negative trends in the wider games industry. We stand for cooperation and collaboration in an industry that desperately needs it, said Newnham in a press release. Recent trends such as mass redundancies driven by greedflation have underscored the need for a paradigm shift. Publishers often prioritize shareholder value over the needs of gamers, leading to a cycle of unfinished games released at inflated prices, while developers have faced challenges including cancellations, unpaid work, and even loss of intellectual property. This has been a tale as old as time. Lots of people come together. They say all of that, which I just read, and they are successful, moderately successful, and sometimes completely bomb. I hope this is the first track that I said, because I just want, everyone to be successful. I don't know anything about these people. I don't know what they've previously worked on. All I know is people with a good intention are trying to do something good in this industry, and that alone I applaud. So, can we all do that? If you're listening on headphones in the middle of somewhere, just clap now. Just clap. It'll feel good. Let's do it. Let's clap. Yeah, we all feel good, right? Okay. Here's one that was getting a lot of... It's inspiring discussions. Let's say that. So BAFTA just announced that, BAFTA, in Britain, UK, it's like a big thing. It's like Academy Awards, but all media and stuff. It's a cool thing. Lots of people are lauded, and usually they pick pretty good stuff. They're respected, if you will, not like the Grammys. They're respected. The BAFTAs, they're good. If you haven't heard of the BAFTAs, come on, go look them up. It's the BAFTAs. So they did a thing. What's the most influential game of all time? Do you know what they picked? They picked Shenmue. How do you feel about that? I paused for emotional reaction. How do you feel? Huh? Shenmue is number 1. Number 2 is Doom. Number 3 is Super Mario Brothers. Number 4 is Half-Life. And number 5 is Zelda Ocarina of Time. Number 6, Minecraft. 7 is Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, which just came out like a month or two ago. And it's, yeah. And then it goes on to say Super Mario 64, Half-Life 2, The Sims, Tetris, Tomb Raider, Pong, Metal Gear Solid 2, or Metal Gear Solid. Yeah. So a lot of people could not believe that Shenmue got it. Rock, Paper, Shotgun, here's what they had to say about that. Wait, I didn't copy it. Nope, I didn't. Okay, the guy basically said it has open world aspects, has this really good fighting system. It has quick time events, which reshaped the gaming industry overnight. To anyone who doesn't know, quick time events is a gameplay mechanic where you're playing and all of a sudden it shifts to a little movie that you're watching, and then there's a point in the movie where it says press B or press circle or whatever the hell you want to say. And if you don't press it, you'll kind of fail something. You might lose the game and be like, oh, game over. Or you just might get hit in the game. Whatever. People use that in a lot of different ways. They were huge for a while, and then they weren't. So that's the thing. And it birthed that. And a lot of people said, how can you like Shenmue so much? It birthed QTEs. They were terrible for the gaming industry. But there was a lot to Shenmue. I think it's a bold choice. I don't know if I agree with it. I don't think that you can necessarily name one game as being the most influential. I hate top 10 lists like that. But I think it's interesting. Doom, of course, changed everything. Super Mario Brothers. The others, any one of these would have been, good, I guess, if you want to say. I don't know how you can pick Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. That's really betting on how that game will influence gaming from here on out. And I don't know if that's... I don't get those vibes from it, but whatever. It's their opinion. It's like their opinion, man. Speaking of games coming out in the future, here's a list of some of the games that are coming out in April. Since the start of the month, I thought I'd get into that. So this game called South of Midnight is coming out. Says it's set in the Gothic American Deep South. It's a Gothic game. It's got magical storytelling type of stuff. I don't know. It's day one on Xbox Game Pass. I got the vibes. I love that Bayou residue vibes, and it has that. Last of Us Part 2 Remastered is out. We haven't played it yet. Probably the best version to play it on. I don't know. I'm sure they did a good job. They always do good with that stuff. I'm not a huge fan of that, so whatever. Days Gone Remastered is out. A lot of people are talking about that because a lot of people think Days Gone, it's basically like motorcycles, open world survival zombie game with lots of crowds of zombies. That was the big thing, is that these huge hordes of zombies are running at you and you can drive your motorcycle, a badass with a bandana type thing. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle is coming to PlayStation, and it's already out on Xbox, and this is technically the second Xbox game because Bethesda was bought out by Microsoft, and Bethesda is the publisher here. I think it's from Machine Head Games, which made all the Wolfenstein games, which are 2 massively thumbs up. So it's a big deal that an Xbox game is coming to PlayStation, and everyone says it's a top hit for Game of the Year. Cool. And then there's more Horizon content coming. Yep. So we got that. And for me, the big game for me is Fatal Fury City of the Wolves. This is a sequel to a game that came out on the Dreamcast years ago called Mark of the Wolves. It's a fighting game. I was in the beta and I didn't get a chance to play it, but I will be playing that day one, streaming it. So if anyone, you want to come in, you want to fight, hit me up. Let's go. Maybe I'll play you on a stream. Let's go. Okay. Let's go on to some more of the news. What else we got? Oh, here's something that I think is cool. And I had this whole thing of like getting esoteric of how I wanted to talk about this. I'll just read this short article really quick about it. I promise this is interesting, even though I'm not going to explain this very well. I'm not smart enough to talk about it in a way that my brain understands it quietly. I don't know how else to say this. I sound stupider than I am. It's really it. I swear, brain can't translate what brain thinks into what mouth can do. Say. That sounds lewd for some reason. Okay. It says Logic meets Tetris in new video game. In his spare time over the past couple of years, philosopher Ivo Peslar, Institute of Philosophy at the Czech Academy of Sciences, has been developing a new video game that combines Tetris-style gameplay with truth tables from classical propositional logic. The game Truth Finder, A Quest of Logic, has just been released in beta. It works on desktop and laptop computers using arrow keys, the spacebar, and the enter key. Yeah. It's free. And he says the main goal was to make truth tables playable without compromising any of the underlying logic, so it could be also used for teaching and educational purposes. I love this stuff. I love games and how they're applied to like learn concepts and learning, and so that we can all min-max our time. If you want to learn something, you want to learn it the fastest way and most meaningful way possible, right? And games seem to be a really great way of doing that. And he says, as a player, so imagine Tetris. As a player, your task is to direct falling colored tiles, green for true and red for false, onto variables and logical operators in order to render correct the truth values for the sentences on each line, and to do so before the falling tiles pile up to the top of the board. There are tutorial levels to walk you through the gameplay and 100 levels of gameplay. And I put this in AI because I was like, I said I'm dumb. Find a way to explain this for me in a way that me, a dumb person, can tell other people about it. And it says, here's what it said. I'm gonna read it. You know Tetris, right? Blocks fall from the sky, and you've got to line them up before the screen fills up. Now picture this. The blocks are made of logic. Like I said, green equals true, red equals false. And you've got to solve little logic puzzles as the blocks fall. Like, if A is true and B is false, what's A and B? And you've got to pick the right color block to match the answer before everything piles up. And why is this so cool? And it says it gamifies thinking. It's not just reflexes, it's reasoning under pressure. It makes truth tables, which are boring and abstract, feel interactive and alive. You get to feel smart while still playing a chill game. And it hits that sweet spot between brainy and satisfying. And it summarizes it and says, it's like if philosophy class and an arcade machine had a baby. And that probably sounds horrible to some of you. I get that. But I just wanted to share my enthusiasm for this type of stuff. So I'm sorry. Back to the good stuff in this podcast and news. Oh, it's the last one. Okay, as we do, I like to end this on a feel-good gaming industry moment so that you can go into that long weekend, because it's going to be long. It's not a short weekend. Long weekends are the best. You're going to manifest a long, shut up, Kyle, a long, who cares, long, great, positive, feel-good, shut up, Kyle, weekend where you feel fulfilled and you have a good time. All right. So this one says, playing video games has an unexpected effect on kids' IQ. Yeah! Researchers have linked spending more time playing video games with a boost in intelligence in children, which goes some way to contradicting the narrative that gaming is bad for young minds. While the difference in cognitive abilities was a small one and isn't enough to show a causal relationship, it is enough to be notable. And the 2022 study was careful to factor in variables, including differences in genetics and the child's socioeconomic background. Meanwhile, watching TV and using social media didn't seem to have a positive or negative effect on intelligence. The research should prove useful in the debate over how much screen time is suitable for young minds. We believe that studies with genetic data could clarify causal claims and correct for the typically unaccounted role of genetic predispositions. The researchers looked at screen time records for 9,855 kids in the ABCD study, all in the U.S. and aged 9 or 10. On average, the youngsters reported spending 2.5 hours a day watching TV or online videos, 1 hour playing video games, and half an hour socializing over the internet. They then accessed data for more than 5,000 of those children 2 years later. Over the intervening period, those in the study who reported spending more time than the norm on video games saw an increase of 2.5 IQ points above the average. Side note, IQ is bullshit, as we all know. I hate the IQ test. I hate people that flaunt their IQ. I hate people that talk about IQ. But for the purpose of this research and for the purpose of figuring out gaming, its effects on us, we have to look at some of these things. But again, please don't be that asshole who talks about their IQ in any concept. No one likes you. I assure you. If you've ever talked to anyone about what your IQ is in a positive way, that person has lost respect for you in that moment. Anyway, going on to the article, the IQ point increase was based on the kids' performance on tasks that included reading comprehension, visual spatial processing, and a task focused on memory, flexible thinking, and self-control. It's important to note that while the study only looked at children in the US and did not differentiate between video game types, mobile versus console games, it's still a valuable insight into gaming and IQ, and backs up the idea that intelligence isn't a fixed constant that we're born with. Our results support the claim that screen time generally doesn't impair children's cognitive abilities, and that playing video games can actually help boost intelligence. Neuroscientist Torkel Klingberg from the Karolinska Institute in Sweden said in 2022 when the study was published. Great, right? I love this. I love it. The more we look at games and figure out its effect on us, the better, so that we can implement that and help people out a lot. You know, I think past studies have also said that senior citizens who engage in video games on a regular basis it helps the neuroplasticity in their brain, I believe. So very cool that this is happening. Go play games this weekend. It's good for your brain. Okay? And have a good time. Well, I think that's it. That's all the articles I have for this week. Thank you so much for listening. I'm so grateful for every second that you spend watching my content, listening to this content. So thank you for everyone. Go tell people about it if you like it. I like a larger listenership because it justifies this justify me talking into a microphone, please. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.